So Amanda Palmer, Senior Advisor for Communications and Media with Airservices Australia. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I was very interested to hear about what you've been doing. Clearly, the people at Airservices have no question about believing in Santa.
Look, Santa is something we're quite passionate about, and we do see both our staff and stakeholders being quite engaged in it. As we say repeatedly throughout the campaign, there's a little bit of magic in everything, and you do have to believe.
And so tell us how this came about. Obviously, it was something that probably was a very good brainstorm and a very effective one. How did that become a corporate objective?
Yeah, so it actually started quite informally about 7 or 8 years ago. And at the time it just started as a bit of a media release and a bit of a let's see if this works. It's obviously evolved quite a lot since then. In the last 3 years has had quite a heavy social media focus, and that came as a result of a little bit of our website not being capable at the time of doing some of the things we wanted to as far as engagement, and particularly the last year with the recruitment angle and with the objectives we've got, it's become a lot more strategic, and that's the result of brainstorming and the feedback we've been receiving from the social media tools.
Now, Airservices is not one of the government agencies that people will think about a lot when they think of government. You kind of the air traffic controllers do their job. The stuff that happens is obviously essential to everyday life. Mm-hmm. But there's a branding, I don't know if issue is the right way to put it, but there is certainly I think the opportunity to create a much greater awareness. Was this always seen as a way that really would improve things, or was it just something you were trying at the time?
Look, it was a little bit of both. So it was something that we saw an opportunity to engage with people that we don't normally. As you said, we're quite well known to our stakeholders, very well known within the aviation community, but lesser known to the mums and dads sitting at home with kids talking about Santa. So it was an opportunity that we really seized on to make sure that we could capitalise and to get a little bit more brand traction than we can otherwise. I guess as an air traffic control provider, we're quite a technical organisation. We do, safety is our number one priority. We have to have a professional and safe external profile, which means that quite often our profile is that safe, serious nature. Santa gives us a little bit of an opportunity to step away from that, but still to intertwine those safe, serious messages into something a little bit more lighthearted and fun.
Well, surely there couldn't be a better spokesperson than someone who's making his list and checking it twice.
Exactly.
So you obviously went around to create the social media element of this. It was something that was being done, as you said previously. Mm-hmm. What was the way that was decided to target it, and how did it really evolve? I mean, you've gotten employees involved, you've gotten you've got a Santa in your videos. There is a lot going on. How did you get people to volunteer, and how did you manage that process to make sure there was a consistent delivery?
Yeah, that again is something that has evolved over a number of years. I guess with particularly us starting in the YouTube space more broadly, we saw an opportunity there to capitalise on what we already did in the Santa arena on the channels that we had. And that was something that evolved because we also had the people within our team that had the skills to be able to do that. So everything that we produced, or nearly everything we produce, is done in-house. Right through from brainstorming. Obviously, Santa lends his time to be involved in the campaign, and we do collaborate to do things like Santa Tracker and the app with external companies. But it really came about because we've got the skills within the team and ideas, and our staff love it. Funnily enough, with all the recruitment stuff that we did last year, the surprise was that our staff were keen to be involved and were happy to be involved. We have controllers talking about seeing Santa on radar screens. We've got technical officers saying the same thing. They are passionate about it, they're passionate about their jobs, and they want to share that information.
It's certainly an opportunity for them to step out and maybe discover a few undiscovered Brad Pitts in there, or what have you.
Look, I think some of our staff do like being on camera, but equally some don't. But we do see this as an opportunity to really engage staff in something that is fun and interesting, and lets people do something that's outside of the day-to-day work that we do to keep the travelling public safe.
Building a campaign around Santa is very clearly a very bursty, very seasonal kind of business. Mm-hmm. How long before Santa becomes relevant to people do you start working on it, and how do you ramp up to that and expect that bursty traffic and the response that it involves? And then once it's finished, what do you do for the rest of the year?
So yeah, Santa is obviously just essentially a 2 to 3 week public facing campaign. So obviously a lot more work behind the scenes that goes into that. We do, initially it was around the 12 days of Christmas, so we launched the campaign pretty much 12 days out from Christmas, and then using an advent calendar theme on our website would ramp up closer. We do still see, while we get requests from people as to what we're doing before middle of December, we do see that the most pick-up of content, both social media comments and engagement, interactions, is the couple of days before Christmas. It's once people have sort of finished work, or they're ramping down, they're starting to get the house ready, get the kids ready, school holidays. So we really see the key engagement for us is a couple of days before Christmas. Likewise, come Boxing Day, we see engagement. Apart from a Merry Christmas and a best wishes sort of aspect, we see very little engagement after that. We do use the social media channels obviously after, so with the exception of the dedicated Facebook page, the other channels are still in use around the clock, so to speak. So we do still see engagement through that. The Facebook page essentially does, for all intents and purposes, almost close down, and then we'll put a couple of messages through the year or as we get closer to Christmas to say, check back regularly, content will be uploaded soon, or we might do a stray countdown, how many sleeps to Christmas through the year, or whatever, just to remind people that we're still out there.
That must be frustrating for the 5-year-old that clicks on the bookmark about Santa in the middle of the year and it just says check back later.
Yeah, but most people aren't looking for the content sort of middle of the year. So we do really just capitalise on when they are interested and keen to hear about what we're doing. But the challenge is for us in creating awareness outside of those periods, which is important through our other channels, and making sure that we're using them and keeping content relevant and updated.
One of the issues I think every organisation faces with social media is staffing it appropriately, making sure you have people who can obviously produce the content, which has been an issue for you guys because you've done the videos and very good content as well, making sure that you can get that stuff out there in a very professional, brand consistent kind of way. How do you find, or how do you manage the process of making sure that those people are available all year, or is this kind of a hobby for them that have other jobs?
So all the people, I guess, involved in our team in producing the content, we're a relatively small integrated comms, media, social media team. Our team is well aware that when they join it, that Christmas is a busy period of time for us. It is challenging because we do have other work that we need to do at that time of year that can sometimes take priority. But the team is passionate about, I guess, the campaign and what we're trying to achieve, and making sure that it works. So it is a challenge, particularly when Santa doesn't leave the North Pole until around midnight on Christmas Eve. That obviously puts an impetus on our team to be working somewhat around the clock at that time, but it is something the team's interested in and enjoys doing, and we find that staff throughout the organisation are quite happy to participate within reason as well.
And are there metrics internally that the executives are looking for to justify this? Are you wanting a particular number of followers or things, or is it a pretty nebulous goal?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit more informal than trying to hit a number of likes or shares. For us, I guess it's as much about engagement and that interaction than hitting a like figure. Mm-hmm. And if the interaction and the engagement is positive, and that we can see people believing in the content and enjoying the content, and if the content's resonating with them, then that's something that we're keen to make sure that we're pursuing rather than an arbitrary number of likes. But that being said, we're obviously always looking for ways that we can improve and build on things, and that's particularly where we use some of the metrics in terms of working out what content's resonating and what we can maybe do better, and what is an adding value to the campaign.
Certainly one of the long-term objectives for this, although your target market might be a little bit young when they're watching Santa online, but as they grow up, is the recruitment. Mm-hmm. In as much as you can do brand building for something like Airservices, that would be one of them. Mm-hmm. Getting some kids say, I want to be an air traffic controller, that sort of thing. How have you seen this campaign and this social media exercise supporting that? I mean, have there been metrics, have there been objectives in that respect?
last year was the first year we tried to target the recruitment angle specifically. In previous years, we're focused on safety or new technology, so how Santa flies around the skies and how controllers can track him. So last year was the first year, and that's obviously something that we're keen to continue exploring. But it is something that we've had to base largely on anecdotal feedback. And a lot of the material we created for the Santa campaign last year has a much longer lifespan than Christmas. And we've already seen large numbers of views of recruitment information, and website hits have increased this year as well. Whether or not that's completely tied back to the Santa campaign is something that's difficult for us to tell, because the audience for Santa is too young to be an air traffic controller at the moment. But we're hoping to spark a little bit of interest in aviation, and hoping that people think about it later down the track, whether they're choosing subjects for high school or thinking about what roles are out there. Just thinking about aviation more holistically, not just air traffic control or aviation firefighters or the techs that fix the radars, but thinking about aviation as an industry.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Amanda. I appreciate it.
No problem, thank you.